Hello, everyone. It's Andrew and Austin. We've got Stock Talks. I think that's the name we're going with. We're Supercharged Stocks. It's Monday morning. What an interesting weekend. Spring's arrived here in BC, so I'm pretty happy about that. How are you doing,
I
Austin?
get my week of spring, and then it'll be back into freezing temperatures, I'm sure.
Well, that's the joys of living in Calgary. There's the Chinooks sometimes, and then there's snow in June.
That'll be great.
You can always be on your toes. So we've got lots of interesting things to talk about. One of the key things is we're going to be talking again with Brandon Colwell, who's got Sagacity Capital Media. So he's got a full service investor marketing firm, and we're going to be chatting about MVMD with him mainly. Because we've been following this whole the short squeeze and the short attacks on different companies, because I think it's one of the key things that we need to look at moving forward, because it highlights a nature of capitalism that I don't like, and it is that predatory. We don't need to make money at every single thing that we do, and I don't like when you write reports that are meant to push a stock down. They're just as bad as a pump and dump. They're just kind of like the reverse of it, is that we're either going to inflate, we're going to lie, we're going to manipulate, we're going to do whatever to try to push a stock down. And to me, that's worse almost than the positive spin side, because you're attacking a company that could be perfectly fine. And that's not naming one in particular, but we've seen it now with Exro. We've seen it with MVMD, of course, GameStop. I think that's Face Drive. I mean, there's a number of ones that are super overvalued. That's a whole other argument compared to some of these other smaller ones that come under these attacks all the time, and often just because they'll call it price exploration or whatnot. It's they're trying to push the stock down to either go and buy more of it cheaper, or whatever. But tell me what you're seeing right now. What do you like? I know there's a couple stocks that you like to keep on top of that are big NASDAQ listed ones, and some are Canadian as well. So what are you looking at right now?
Yeah, usually what I'm trying to keep on top of, my personal kind of view on things is I keep it very diversified. I like to stay in a few different sectors. One sector that I'm really, really excited about and have been for a long time is the sports media and gaming side of things. So the Score, which it's a Canadian company, a lot of people might remember from back in the day, they actually had a TV channel, and I don't know what it was for everyone else, but for me, it was always Channel 30 on cable was the Score. And it was, your standard kind of Sports Center type show. They did the highlights from all the games the night before, talked about the different trades or new signings that might be going on around the different leagues. And eventually they kind of transitioned out of that. And I kind of thought, all right, well, they must not have had enough money or whatever to keep going on. What turns out what they were doing over the last 5 years was building up their app base, with plans to ride the kind of coattails of sports gambling legalization across the country and channel that through their app, which is now the largest sports app in Canada. And try to kind of merge those two together and go off a lot of hype, because seriously, there is tons of people who gamble on sports.
Yes.
And in Canada, there's ways to do it. You can find ways to do it.
So I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you know enough about this? I remember, because I haven't followed this area, that there was a big surge back in the 2000s with offshore betting, that people would open up an offshore account in Barbados and Cayman Islands, wherever, on a barge somewhere floating in the water, and they could do it then. They could do online betting, or they could play online poker. And there was a couple Canadian companies that got very big. It's an extremely profitable business. Let me just put it that way. But there were some legalities around that. Do you know if that has changed? Like, is it now, like you said, is it legal now for there to be Canadian sport betting? I know Europe is fine, but here in Canada?
So with Canada itself, what the Canadian government is trying to do is they're realizing, like, oh my God, so many people are doing this, that we need to be able, we need to have the structural framework in place to regulate this. And I think the most important thing in the government's eyes is we need to be able to tax this. Because right now, if I was to go, there's plenty of websites where you can go, like Bodog, for example, is a huge one that I know tons of people use. American-based site. You can go on there as a Canadian. You can upload money to it. No problem at all. You don't have to worry about any proof of residency stuff. And when you win anything, let's say hypothetically, if you were to put a parlay together this weekend for the UFC fights, and you did a 4-team parlay, you ended up hitting it, you made maybe $500. That's completely tax-free right now if you did it through Bodog. So the Canadian government is looking at that and saying, we need a structural framework in place on our end so that Canadian companies can take advantage of this and make money themselves, but also so the government can get its little piece of the pie on top of that.
Sure. I mean, this is the interesting thing when you have innovation, and I'm not saying gambling is necessarily innovation, but the innovation of how they're streamlining it and making it mainstream and making it available to people. That is very new. It's very innovative with the apps and with a lot of these programs. Is that there's a lot of catch up that people have to play, and certainly governments have to be able to be flexible and adjust and say to themselves, there's a lot of innovation out there, and if you don't match it, you're just leaving money on the table. And governments are no different than corporations. If you're leaving money on the table, that's not a great sign. So it is. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, gambling, you can go ahead and do it. I have no problems with people gambling. But if they can find the revenue, they'll certainly feel a lot better, and they'll make the regulations they need. So that is very interesting. And I like this score, not only because it's Canadian, but because it is once again, you're providing something that is no different, really. I mean, it is betting, but they have analysts and they have data. They have a lot of numbers for a lot of these sports. So I'm not as familiar with it, but I do know as far as tracking data, you go listen to someone like a baseball fan, it's just data. What was that movie too that touched on that? Speedball or Moneyball. Moneyball. Yeah. So I don't know if that model still works, but it certainly worked then. And people learned very quickly that you could start using statistical probabilities for sports, not just predicting future events in companies, but for other events too. And that kind of capitalizing on things is quite interesting.
It is, and it's I'm always, you got to let people do what they want to do, and people are going to find ways to bet on sports. It's got to be one of the most bet on things on earth. I mean, the Super Bowl Sunday is the single largest gambling day of the year every year, because you have people betting on everything from, how long is the national anthem going to go, to is the coin toss going to be heads or tails?
Really?
It's the largest gambling day of the year.
That's crazy. Okay, well, that will be a whole other show then. We should just do one on talk about gambling stocks. And listen, because we already actually, before we jump into Extro and just touch base with that, let's focus some good news here. Desert Mountain Energy up big today, up 18%. That makes me very happy, that's for sure. This is one of my favorite companies out there, because it is, if you're talking about innovation, this is helium. And it's so interesting for people to get their heads wrapped around what it is that they're doing. This company is really on track, and I've got big expectations for them, and happy to see them get a big jump up today.
They've got a real good shot in the arm. I know, is it Robert that you were talking with the other
Yes.
week? He seemed really excited. He's got a great team around him. I mean, that's a guy who I just look at that, I'm like, wow, this guy's really stoked about what he's doing and what they're putting together.
Yes.
So it's nice to see that stock surging, because it's a great company and with so much potential. People really should be paying attention to this one.
Yeah, that's why I like when you have someone like that is he's fully invested in this. He's 40 plus years in drilling and energy, and he can barely contain himself. I mean, that you can't fake that when someone's so excited about their company. That sells it on its own. Never mind the merits of the projections that we kind of shot around and talked about. It's hard to post those projections because you have to be very conservative when you're posting any data for news releases, but certainly they're onto what appears to be a high-grade helium, and certainly a large structure, to say the least. So great news for Desert Mountain Energy. Thrilled about it. Let's jump into quickly Exro, because it's good to chat about Exro too. It's recovered a little bit. It's hanging in there around $4.20. It still has a huge market cap for where it is, but it certainly seems like the damage that was done took a bit of a toll, and I'm sure some people just took their money off the table and just are waiting. What's your thoughts on Exro right now?
It's a difficult one, because obviously was it Wednesday last week when that report came out, and you're reading some of the claims in there. It's certainly something to be taken seriously when you hear that. But even I was going through some of the claims and some of the links to different sources of info that they had, and it wasn't leading anywhere. There wasn't much by the way of evidence to support these claims on the short selling side. I loved the response from Xro. They came out with a really good detailed response. I thought it was perfect. It was not, they didn't spend too much time. It wasn't too much fluff or anything like that. They hit the points very hard. They said, this is why this is incorrect. This is why this is wrong. This is what false information is being thrown out there. So it's good to see it bounce back. I hope that it's going to continue to do that, because I know, like we touched on the last time that we talked about this, it's tough to see great companies like this get hit by these short selling attacks.
Yes.
That are solely meant just to try to drive profits for hedge funds.
Yeah. We have a comment here from Mark, who actually I talked to quite a bit. Mark's been great to chat with and talking about different stocks. He wanted to ask about Vanadium Corp. So Vanadium Corp, I've got a message out to chat with them. They haven't had any big news releases yet. My understanding is there's lots happening behind the scenes, but of course, we'd like to see. I'd like to see a couple things. I mean, to me, the main thing that on my wish list is if you sign some sort of deal and you have some sort of revenue come to the table. That's my dream scenario, is if they were able to sign some sort of partnership, announce it, have, even if it's a nominal amount, it's getting a deal done. That's what I would love to see. We'll check in. Hopefully we'll get a comment from them soon. It's tough with Vanadium Corp because they've got a very solid group of people that care about the stock. There's a lot of stock out there, which is a problem. And that's also what I'm sure what they're trying to figure out is how do we either take more money in, which they've done again. They took in another $1 million a couple of weeks ago. And people will start wondering, listen, if you don't have any news as far as next steps, next guidance, it's asking people who've been very patient to be more patient, and that can be a little problematic. So I'm extremely hopeful for Vanadium Corp. It's one of these ones that I think has huge potential. I haven't wavered on that at all. But because there hasn't been any news flow, and it's been 6 months, so I mean, I would have liked to have seen a lot more happen publicly. But I believe that there is a ton happening behind the scenes, and hopefully we're going to get some guidance from them very soon.
Yeah, it would be good to see something like that come out. I mean, something we've seen some of these companies that you like get similar style deals put together in the last few months, and if Vanadium Corp could come out with something like that soon, that would be really, really encouraging for people who've stuck with the stock for as long as they have.
Good stuff. Now I want to jump on QU Media. So this, I like this. This is pulled back from a high of almost 50 cents. It's 48 cents. So this I talked about a couple of weeks ago. We had some talks with them. This is a great company with, I mean, it's a loaded up management. I mean, it's really impressive. If you go to their website, it's extremely impressive who they've got involved here. And this is looking to take advantage and utilize this massive Indian market. I mean, I think it's something like 650 million, what we consider middle class, that have access to phones, have access to, and I mean, they want access to content. And I think a lot of people, especially Canadians, because we have a very strong Indian and Punjabi contingent, as far as that's the highest immigration rates we have here, is that we understand Bollywood. Like, we see Bollywood films being shot here in Vancouver. So that's actually good, because they have their own culture, their own style, their own techniques, and what they like to see. But they've also embraced the Hollywood style to some degree. And I think that mesh can work well. And having this team of QU Media is with some of the people from Lionsgate, the co-founders of VH1 and MTV. I mean, this is loaded with people that understand video, content creation, getting content out. They work heavily with influencers. So this I look at strictly as not as the content is interesting, which I think it is do you think this team can drive revenue and make money in that market? And to me would be the cases ought to be made to me. I believe they can. My job is to convince you moving forward. So I look forward to doing that. We're going to have on Kurt Marvis and whoever else we can to tell us about the company, where they're going. But right now, I'm looking at this down at 28 cents today, and perfect. That makes me happy. So I'm glad to see that at a great rate that we can come into. I have big expectations on this one.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. If you could kind of hand pick a dream team to lead up a project like this, that's what QU Media have. They have got the right people. They've got the kind of the smartest minds in the industry pulling together to really ride on a market that is still so untapped when it comes to the social media marketing and influencer side of things. They've got a great in over there. Tons of potential, really exciting. I'm looking forward to keeping an eye on these guys more as we go forward as well.
Wonderful. Okay, so who else should we take a look at? What's moving today? What else do we see happening? One of the stocks that I love and have a huge high hopes for is GasX. Well, that's the symbol. Sorry, MG Energy. This is a Colombian gas play. It's pulled back as well from a high of about $1.79, but we're about $1.30. My understanding, I believe, and we just did a video with them end of December, beginning of January. They are looking for production numbers in March. So we're here. So it could be the end of March. I'm looking forward to doing a video with them very soon. Oh, here we go. We got Brandon here as well. Hey, Brandon, we got Brandon on. So wonderful to have you.
Hey, sorry about that, guys. I was actually speaking with someone from the company, hence why I was just like, oh, I've got to take this call. And then trying to get into the system wasn't working there. But gentlemen, welcome.
Wonderful. It was great because we were looking forward to having you on, and you sent the message saying, hey, I'm actually on MVMD right now. And that's great because now we're getting it straight from you, straight from them. Can you tell us? We've been chatting about a bunch of different kind of short attacks as well. A couple of companies that have pulled back, but that we really love. And certainly MVMD is one of those. And I like having other people who have invested in strong relationships and a very strong understanding of the company on to kind of tell me, tell Austin, and tell the rest of the viewers what they know. And we like to rely on you on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So without knowing what you guys spoke about before, again, my sincerest apologies there. No. But Mountain Valley has been, last week was probably the most fascinating thing I've ever watched in my days of trading and investing. And this is coming from someone who lost 6 digits during that time. So, I mean, it's not like I just stood on the sidelines. I hurt just as much as anybody else who's watching this, if not more than some. But when you know the situation, when you understand it better, you're not scared anymore. You take the fear out of it, which I'm sure you guys were probably mentioning in some sort of capacity, because when it comes to Mountain Valley, this wasn't the case of, oh no, this was actually a pump and dump. This wasn't a case of, oh no, something's wrong with the company. This is a case of one. I don't know if you mentioned the name of the person shorting it. Anson is a very, very strong company. But let's be very honest. Let's not try to bring them down. They do what they do very, very well. You had the market sentiment completely change in the sense that on the Monday of last week, we got that first little spookiness in hands, and all of a sudden speculative money started pouring off of the table. I mean, I'm sure with you guys, and for myself especially, that Monday and the Friday before, I sold almost half my portfolio of the stuff that I'm loose with, not my long-term holds. So I can have cash because I've been through it a few times. I understand what's about to happen. I did not know how strong it was going to happen in Mountain Valley. But you take that. Then you add the fact that 12.5 million shares came onto the market at 13 cents. Now, these are investors who, quite frankly, when they first invested, they invested in a cannabis company. These are, your retail investors. It was a great idea to get them in and be able to hey, look, they're getting access to these early private placements, but now they're sitting on over 10 baggers, and they've been waiting for that round specifically. They were waiting about 2.5 to 3 years. So it's not like they just got it and got out the first chance they got to. They put their time in as well. Yes. So then you had that. Then you had 25 million, I believe it's 25 million options, warrants at 35 cents. And then those were expiring February 21st. And then that paper is going there. So if you're a big shorting company and you see this company that has a lot of volume, it's gone up a lot. Doesn't matter why it went up. Doesn't matter why. It went up a lot in a short amount of time. The markets were getting spooked, and you thought to yourself, wait a second, there's a lot of cheap paper out there. I think people might get spooked, and if I can start hitting them properly, they'll be like, oh, they want to lock in their gains because of that fear aspect. So you
Yes.
get this almost this perfect storm that started to occur. And that's what really was bringing it down from the 230 area. It went as low as into the 90s at one
Yes.
point. But without speaking too long here, forgive me, I'm just trying to give a full recap of it. The reason why I felt so confident throughout that week, though, is that for every share that was sold, someone was buying that share. You don't just sell it and then no one buys it. What you're doing is you're taking those weak hands, you're taking those people who, they got spooked, whatever it be. For every buy, you're actually getting that from a large fund, from a high net worth individual, from these brokerages. If you notice, there were blocks of like $200,000, $100,000. That's not a retail investor buying that.
No.
And these are people who are smart enough to know it is a downturn. They are being shorted, and they're still waiting to put their money, willing to put their money into it. If you get that side of the story, you think to yourself, wait a second, is this actually a buying opportunity? I think that's what a lot of people saw it as.
No, for sure. And I mean, I say to people too, I mean, you have to have pullbacks in every stock. I don't care what stock chart you look at. It's never just straight up all the time. It's always this choppy up and down with the intention, like the long term is up, but it can be quite volatile because you'd be insane. Like if you have to take some money off the table, like if you've been in it at 20 cents or 30 cents, you need to take some of it off the table. That's just common sense. And it just, like you said, there was a trifecta of things happening. And I never fault anyone for having a pullback. But once again, and I always stress this when I talk about having a model, is that if someone is just investing without a model or without a plan and they don't know why, you're going to be in trouble. Because when these things happen, not only are you going to question yourself, you're going to doubt yourself, you're going to doubt your own plan. You don't even have a plan. You're just going to panic sell. You're going to panic. You're just going to jump and run. This I saw and thought, okay, we know what's happened. This is a short attack, and someone's, trying to push this back down a bit to some degree, and that's fine. They're profiting off of that. But to me, I'm not concerned. I'm not worried because it is an opportunity to, and I own some shares at 170, 185, I think 190. So for me, it's I can get now at what is it now, $28 or
$30,
$1.30. So for me, it's a great way to average down, get my price down a little bit lower, because once again, the management is been hitting targets. They have a ton of news coming out, so it isn't a management problem. It isn't a news flow problem. Certainly, lots of good news coming out. So it is just a matter of it's a change of investor, it's a change of type, and two, because they were going on the U.S. exchange too, is you have a shift of people saying maybe in their mandate, we don't do OTC QB deals, we're out. Who knows? Just lots of criteria people have, and you have to get the new investors in and the other ones out. And this happens all the time. It isn't a sign that, everything's in trouble. So that's why we wanted to have you on, because you know the company very well. You're a key founding kind of shareholder, and we wanted to get your perspective as well, because you have quite a bit of knowledge about it.
Yeah, and if I may as well, and I'm hoping my volume is coming through here because I'm realizing it's coming through my computer. So I'm hoping you guys are gonna be able to hear me clearly, but I speak loudly usually, so it should work. And another element I wanted to bring up as well is that something I've seen. So again, if you're an investor in them, you should be searching for information on them. And there's a great Discord room that has a lot of information in there. There's other chat rooms and things like that. Watch out for those things like Stockhouse and stuff like that. You never know what you're going to get there. But what I found incredibly interesting, again, about last week is that as it was going down, their news flow, like you were just talking about, the company's story got better. They were putting out more news flow that you look at this and telling me that it's starting to de-risk it now. And then they're looking to go into animals for their ivectisol, because what people don't fully understand, it's not just these clinical trials looking for COVID-19 and the South African variant. If they put in that, if they can prove that ivermectin stops the replication of a virus as opposed to a vaccine that may prevent you from one strain of the virus, that's very, very, very big. While at the same time, through their quick sum technology, and hopefully what they're going to be able to show is through their dose sparing adjuvant and through breaking cold chain. Like those two is just, this is unicorn and a hat. Like this is gone if that happens. But they're also looking into, if you want that vaccine, they can provide it to you, potentially break cold chain by putting it into vials, making it so that it can be transported anywhere. Then at the end point, just putting distilled water, shaking it, and then it's back into the liquid that you put into a needle. It's incredible if this goes through. But the Ivectosol for animals right now, swine flu and things like that are just ravaging different types of animals, like pigs, all the different types. Instead of having to kill those off, and instead of this massive, thick, intermuscular needle that is painful for the animal, and it does not have even close to the same efficacy, now what they're looking into is it could be a simple shot, like a normal shot right into them, like you with a tiny little needle. Because of the Ivectosol, because of its solubility with water, you can now save large percentages of these animals that would get this, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry in itself.
Yeah.
The amount of prongs this can go on is just incredible. But the point that I was starting off with is what I found amazing was that some of these founders, many people think, oh, the founders are selling their cheap paper. It's the exact opposite. Now, who am I? You don't know me. I understand I can say this stuff and you may not believe me, but I'm trying to get you to believe me because I know it to be true. Some of these founders were quite literally liquidating their portfolios. I won't speak of who, because that's not my point. That's not my place to say so. But liquidating their portfolio of their blue chips, of the things that they wanted for long terms, hundreds of thousands of dollars, just so they can be on the same line as the brokers, as the high net individuals, and the people who came together and were fighting the shorts all of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then if you notice Friday, halfway through, they at least won that battle that day.
Yes.
You can absolutely tell. Once it got past 117, it was gone. It's because they weren't buying other stocks they thought were going to do well. They were selling ones that they did not want to sell so that they had the ammo to be able to put forth through this. So if you're an investor and you see that, the main people of this company are selling their personal positions when they already have millions of shares. They're already well positioned with Mountain Valley, but they are pushing forward because they believe in it that much.
Yes.
I had no worry whatsoever about my shares. I am more excited today than I was last week because they've had a little bit of news flow explaining more about their story. I'm not worried. But if you didn't know that information, maybe you were worried.
For sure. And that's why I wanted to have you on as well, because you're a very trustworthy person, and everyone can see that from watching you, the people that have watched you for years, is having someone who is genuine and authentic come on and say, listen, here's what's happening. Here's what we know. Here's what's changed. Here's what's not changed. And nothing's changed in the negative. Yes, there's been a price, and I hate the term price discovery, because it's not price manipulation to some degree. That to me, it almost doesn't matter. Is the management the same? Are they doing a great job? Yes. Have they been in milestones? Yes. Is there not news flow? Yes. Is there has anything negative happened? Nothing negative. It's all positive. So why would I sell? And it's tempting to want to sell because you think, oh, everyone must know something else that I don't. They don't. Sometimes they don't. People just panic and they dump. And also, like you said, and also just timing of people, like you're going to take some profits at some point. So this, I wanted to have you on because it is nice to have someone who's third party. You don't work with them. I know you have a major position with them, but to have someone who doesn't have a vested interest, I don't work with them either in any way, shape, or form. But to be able to talk to it, to help people explain how these short attacks work in real time. And Austin and I touched on XRO before you jumped on as well, and we saw a strong response from them, which has helped the stock enormously as well. Is that people have to be aware of these entities now and how they work, and to remind yourself of, has there been a massive fundamental change in the business in any way, shape, or form? Did they fall off? Did they come out and say, this didn't work? Then you go, okay, the stock dropped. We tested the theory, didn't work, but nothing has happened. There's none of that. And like you said, quite to the contrary, it's been moving forward. So I never like to tell people to go buy or sell or this or that, but I'm certainly buying more. I'm certainly interested in it. And good.
I've got a lot of shares.
Yeah. Oh, you do. Yeah.
I bought more. What was it? 114 and 105 or 109. I have to go back to see specifically, but absolutely. I didn't really have that much money at the time. I put into other things. What little money I did have, I sold one of my positions too. I wanted to sell it though, but nonetheless, and threw that right into Mountain Valley, because I'm looking at that now and I'm thinking that's going to be multiples when this starts coming together. Are you kidding me?
It's on sale.
Yeah.
And that's
it's true. That's great. Yes,
that's the difference between investors who know, investors who don't understand the markets, in my opinion.
Yes,
Totally.
and
It
having
goes
you
back
come
to
on.
that having a plan thing as well. Like once you're solid in your plan and you know what your approach to any certain stock is going to be, you feel a lot more confident about what's going on, and you can ride out those dips and those kind of scary moments that might make other people panic. But once you're secure in your plan and your fundamentals, then you have nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have Brandon on to remind us remind us of, listen, what's changed? Well, why is this going down? And having that reason.
Yeah.
It's good for people to be reminded, because if you're looking at the short article and you're scratching your head and you see the stock dropping, you don't need any further evidence. You go into panic. So you need someone to come back in who doesn't have a vested interest in trying to convince you to do something else. Is that, listen, I'm not paid by the company. I'm not trying to pump this thing up. I'm just telling you, here's what we know. Here's the facts. Here's the actual data. And here's the response. I couldn't think of anyone that I knew better than to have you on and talk a little bit about it.
Hey, I appreciate that, man. Honestly, I do, because, it all started with Ftmig when we were building that prior. Now through Sagacity Capital Media. You can find us on Twitter, Sagacity, Saga, and then City, CM. You can find us on there as well, because we're continuing to cover companies in this way, because I'm a very firm believer that, a lot of these investors, they're not dumb. You can't say that about people, because they could be very intelligent people. What they are at times, they are ignorant. They don't always know what's going on, so they're making dumb decisions because of that. Big distinction. Big distinction. So the more that you're able to educate people, not just on the markets or on a specific company, but how markets work and all these various different elements. I had my own, I've got a group of, 15, 20 guys. We talk about stocks. We're trying to, find out new information about them, all that kind of stuff. And some of them were down as well. They're like, man, my portfolio is getting hammered. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, this is like the 8th time this happened to me. Like, you get used to it after a while. Like, you weren't saying much when it went up by 300% in a month. So when it comes down by 30 or 40%, it's part of the game. But no, there's just so much going on. What a lot of people don't realize as well, it's not just the COVID-19 trials they currently have ongoing. It's also the polio vaccine. That's where this started, when they started changing from cannabis. And polio is a massive issue. If you see Farber talk about polio, and he mentions how he had someone pass in his life. I don't know how much he's mentioned of this, so I want to be mindful here, but something that really made him passionate to find a solution to polio, because we don't think about polio in North America. But in South Africa and places where it's very hard to keep things refrigerated, both in transit and then when already there, it's still an issue. And polio is disgusting. Polio is awful. And if they can work on this vaccine again, that what I was talking about earlier, you dry it out, you put it into a vial. Now it's breaking cold chain. You can deliver anywhere, and they just put distilled water afterwards, and it's a shot. So let's get proven. But if they can go through that and get that back, and get that stamp of approval.
Huge.
It's remarkable what you can do with this. So to hear that I think that trial started March 8th, like very soon, I believe. Again, I'd have to actually look at this. I'm just pulling this out of thin air when it comes to like my recollection of it. But that's starting off. Then you got the COVID-19. Then you've got the animal aspect. Then you've got all of these other areas where you can use the dose-sparing adjuvant, the ability to use 1/8, 1/10, 1/6, whatever that's going to end up being of a vaccine or of a certain thing, insulin. There's a lot of things out there. There's so many angles for this company to go down that I have no idea why anyone, other than personal situations that are outside of my control or understanding, I get it. I have no idea, if you don't need to sell, why on earth you are, other than you don't know what's going on and you might be a little bit fearful and panicky. I get it. But my goodness, mid-April to late April is where you're going to really start seeing those trials coming back. I think that's when they said they want the COVID-19 ones back from the BSL 4-level lab. When those come back, that is going to be incredibly material. We're hoping things go well. Everyone believes it's going to go well. Biotech companies, you never fully understand. So you understand that's the risk reward we're playing. But that's when you're going to be looking for something that could change this company one way or another for a short term, not because the share price is just going down.
No, and I know some people will say, well, it's a 400 million market cap. You go, well, hold on, take a step back here. That's not even a number. Like, when you're looking just COVID alone, the vaccine, you're talking about $1 trillion. Like, that's such a large number. $1 trillion. That market is massive. Now, all of these other ones say they're just tens of billions. Those are numbers that are startlingly high. So you say 400 million it's not big. That's a small position for the potential of if any of these things hits. It's multiple billions open up. It opens up the world very quickly because you're talking about the world. It isn't just a small market. We're focused on this part of this aspect. This is big, huge, blue sky material type of thing. So I don't want to belabor it anymore. We're buying more into it, but I do want to have you on and maybe talk. Is there anything else you're looking at right now you want to speak about with Sagacity? How are things going? What are you looking at on top of this? I mean, that's your own personal holdings, but what's going on right now for you in Sagacity?
Yeah, well, funny enough, I've been very, very picky with the companies that Wes and I took on with Sagacity. So all of them are my holdings. I like to align I'm a firm believer. If I'm going to be covering the company, making content on them and getting their message out there, if I can't also buy theirs, like own their stock, do I really believe in that company? Like that's a very big thing. Yes. So another one we just took on, we just launched last week, is called XTM Incorporated, XTM Inc. Paid, PAID is the ticker. Absolutely. And this ties back into my hospitality career. Absolutely love that company. We just put out an interview on last Monday of Marilyn Schaefer, the CEO. I highly recommend checking that out on our website, on our YouTube as well, Sagacity CM. It's a company where they're solving a huge issue, and that is cash. More specifically, cash in hospitality. I don't know how many people understand when you're giving tip outs and stuff like that. It's very, very cumbersome for a company to be able to tip out their servers. And sometimes if you're in a conference setting or something like that, you might have the busser, the server, the bartender, the bouncer out front, whatever it is. Each one of them are getting different percentages. Each one of them are getting money. Sometimes you're holding it for 2 weeks, for 1 week. Then all of a sudden you're giving out all this cash, but you didn't really take cash in. So that manager now has to leave and go to the bank and get money for that. So this eliminates all of it. What it is, it's a MasterCard backed card that you're going to be able to get. It's free for the business to integrate. The only thing they cost is for that actual card. They go in, they integrate into their system where they can pay their entire staff with one click of a button. It goes into a MasterCard that the staff have. So now not only is their main income being paid right into their card that they can use at Tim Hortons, they can use wherever they want. They can transfer from one person to another free of charge that are on the program. There's no cost to the employee other than $1.50 transfer fee if you're transferring the money to your personal accounts. Yeah. And then on top of that, they also do the tips on there. So now all of your tips are recorded there. There's two parts to that. The one part is they have made it very clear they're not reporting that to the CRA.
That was my first question.
Yeah, exactly. That was my first question. They're not reporting it to the CRA, but the opposite, you can now use it because it's so perfectly tracked. You can use that as a sign of income, which more mature, maybe people in the hospitality industry that have families. This now enables them to prove their income so they can get mortgages.
Yes,
those two things are the two problems of hospitality.
Yes,
worrying about declaring your tips, or for the other side of the coin, wanting to be able to get loans and you can't.
Yes.
So you've got that. So you're able to do that. They've got Pizza Hut on board. They've got Earl's on board. They've got Domino's Pizza. They've got Marble. They just took on Groot Hospitality, which is massive in Miami, all over Miami. And they just took on Mike Kimmel in Harlow Investments. And they just landed all 6 stadiums for the MLSE, which is the MLSE is going cashless. They're all going to be using their program.
This is the way things are going, for sure.
Absolutely. So I heard this and I'm thinking, like, can I meet you? Like, they're in Toronto. So I met them right away. I wanted to take them on. I'm now an investor in the company. I strongly believe it. This is solving an issue of cash. But not just that, they also did a deal with NetSense. So this card, very shortly, you're also going to be able to buy and sell crypto on the app on your phone through this card, and then be able to use that card and use your Bitcoin to go buy a coffee at Starbucks. And that Starbucks would never know you use Bitcoin because it automatically exchanged that instantaneously to the currency that you were using. I mean, how can you not like a fintech play like that? It's insane.
No, this is great. I just pulled up the chart here. So, I mean, it's say just from day one here, January 1st, 16 cents. Today, we're at 55 cents.
Exactly. I mean, we took them on a week and a half ago. Look what they've done since then. We've been pounding that message board on it. It's one of the, I'm really, really happy about that. It's a team that's really pushing forward. But again, if I can just tell the story like I just did there in maybe 2 minutes max,
That's
and
it.
it's understandable.
Yes.
That's why I think it's really getting a lot of momentum in the space right now. And it was green all last week when everything else was red. That really stuck out to a lot of people too.
Absolutely. So that's XTM Inc. or paid is the symbol. Definitely go check out Sagacity. Reach out to Brandon Colwell either on social media. We'll put your links in there as well, and put the links to the videos as well. I don't want to say reach out to you about anything on MVMD or anything, but I'm sure you don't mind. Reach out to Brandon, send him an email, send him a Twitter, tell you what you think.
If you're in Discord, I'll be there.
On Discord,
the main Discord one. I'm there answering stuff all the time, to be honest.
Excellent.
I was there myself a few years ago, so I want to be able to be there for others.
While we've got you for a second, Brandon, I'm just curious your thoughts on the current kind of meme stocks and stuff like GameStop. We're seeing a huge surge from GameStop today. Do you think that's something that's going to be sustainable, or is this the second squeeze? What's kind of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm such a double-edged coin on this, or double-sided coin. It's funny. I've always told people, if you're born 85 to 95, I call it the equilibrium generation. Andrew, we've had a talk specifically on this, where that's where we understand the old ways. We probably, I won't say that. I was going to say the way our parents disciplined us may be different from the way they do now. But you could see both sides. So the one side of the coin, is it sustainable? Like, it's dangerous. There's a lot of bag holders that are made from this. Yes, it's a great movement. Yes, it's great to be a part of, but it can easily crash on you because a lot of times these are going way beyond what they're supposed to be. So your older school investor will look at this and go, of course it's not, but they're also saying Bitcoin will never be an investment. And they're also saying a bunch of other stuff. And they were wrong by that because I can see the flip side of this coin. This is just showing another way to play the game. And that game is the capital markets. The capital markets aren't fair. You think they're fair? Are you kidding me? Look what happened to the markets last Friday when they were red, and then all with a snap of finger, they bounced. All the shorting companies turned into buyers because they knew over the weekend Biden was going to say yes to that $1.9 trillion. You don't think they had that information? So it's not fair. So the only reason why people are angry right now is because this is a way of playing the game that's never been done before. And it's effective when done properly. So, look, I'm all for it just because it's within the confines of the law, from my understanding. And it's working a lot of different ways. Is it a safe way to do your investing? No. If you're doing this, understand what you're doing. You are pulling the lever on the machine and you're waiting to see what numbers pop up to see if you won the lottery. That's what you're doing. But if you know that's what you're doing and you're winning at it, how can I be angry at that?
No,
totally.
I've always looked at it as if you're going to play siege against a castle. They have the right to pull in all the foreign folk, pull them all into the castle to protect and then defend. And what I liked about this whole thing was that there's an ideological play at play with GameStop in particular, but it is that people are realizing, oh, wait a second, we actually do have a bit of clout if we team up. Because who would have thought, like on a chat room, you could get that many people motivated to do this. And really, that's the part that I find so amazing. Not only just the funny memes and the funny YouTube things that come out that I find hilarious. It is that this strong in defense, and a lot of times it's in defense of younger people who are like, back in 2008, you were happy to destroy my family. So this is my defense now. Yeah. All the power to you. I don't see any fault in that.
Yeah, and if I may as well, I think what a lot of people aren't understanding is that we just had the biggest influx of teenagers and of early 20s coming into the market for their very first time. Now, you can say, oh, they don't know what they're doing. Oh, they're just pushing this. But guess what? They're still buying a share. Yeah, they still have capital, and quite frankly, if they're throwing $100 into the market and unfortunately losing it or doing well with it, they're learning. I'd much rather that than they're throwing $100 on some skins that they were going to buy for a game just so they can have the Darth Vader character. Like, come on, you got to stop. I'm finding that a lot of Wall Street is whining at this.
They are.
And they're whining because they didn't think of it first, and right now they can't control it. That's why they're whining.
Yes. Yeah. No, and I like the analogy was that it wasn't that you're meeting in some dusty men's club, having a cigar and talking about what you're going to do for the next week. This is like literally in an open chat that they don't even know, like they don't even get it. Like I've read so many crazy articles where people are like, this is what's happening. Like you've never been on those streams talking to these people. That it's they just didn't think that that was possible, that you could motivate people in this kind of way. And I don't want to belabor this topic either, but it's just amazing to see. I mean, I was watching a lot of stuff from 2016, so I knew the power of this, and you could motivate people. That was more on the political spectrum, but it's amazing to see. And if you can harness, and I always focus, and we talk about this, if you can harness this group and go, great, you're interested. And yeah, sometimes the future doesn't look too bright lately, but if you're interested in this, there are tons of companies that are real, that you're not playing a game, but that have solid investment, have solid business plans that are at 50 cents, at 20 cents, and have huge potential. And you can start carving out a living very quickly and learning a lot when you focus in on what am I investing in? Am I actually investing, or am I gambling, or what am I doing?
Yeah. And hey, look, and there's nothing wrong with gambling if you know you're at least gambling. We all bet on sports and other kind of stuff. Like, there's nothing that's inherently wrong with it. Don't gamble with your rent money. Be smart about it. But no, to your point there, the reason why we built Ftmig for about 4 years ago now is because we knew that we strongly felt that this was the future. For all of our interviews were done online. We were doing Facebook Lives with cannabis companies before Financial Post or anyone else would even touch them. They all thought it was too taboo. So no, this is the future. This is where people spend. They have their phones in their hands. You have to get the content into their hands. The little bit of an element, the really pumpiness, and all over TikTok, and just say, hey guys, buy this without any information. I personally am not too much of a fan of that. I mean, come on, you got to give due diligence. You have to understand you are, you could almost use the word preying on youth if you're doing that, because they don't know any better. And just like how there's rules about what commercials you can have for children's programming, because you need to be mindful. You're going after an adolescent mind. You're going after someone who, who's very susceptible to you saying something just because you're an adult or whatever. So I do think you got to be careful there, but those methods are very good for getting your message out there. And if you can then provide due diligence, provide links, provide more information for them to learn from, I think it's absolutely, it's so key. It's instrumental for a company. If you're not on social media and you're a public company right now, what the hell are you doing? Really? I don't get
for
it.
Sure. No, and I think it's good too. You touched on that too. Is that I look at other people's content. I don't spend a lot of time, but I'm amazed, and I won't name any, of people that have no background at all. Look at like 500,000 hits, and I'm thinking, oh, this is dangerous. I mean, this is very dangerous. So when you have people that have a huge background in this, and they're providing a lot of information and trying to educate people, it just may take longer, but people will start to find it. They'll start to hone in, and you're one of those people that's driving a message. You've got a great track record with both with Follow the Money Investor Group, as well as with your new ventures now. You've got great companies that you're looking at and working with. And for me, it's trying to find people like you to introduce the people I know and to the people out there to go, listen, there's lots of great content. There's lots of crap out there, but there's lots of great people that are authentic, that are genuine, that know what they're talking about, that are in positions that have very large potential and that are very exciting. And that's what gets people really excited about investing, is you're part of something bigger and you're solving big problems. And those are the companies like you're talking about already with TMX. We were talking about QU Media, MVMD. I mean, these are huge plays with huge numbers, with great teams behind them. And once again, thank you for jumping on, especially quick notice, especially with just getting off the call with MVMD as well to help educate us a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate your patience there. Forgive me. I'm looking at this call. I'm like, I gotta take this call.
You gotta take it. You have to. It's wonderful.
It was great. We just got to ramble for 10 minutes before you got on. It worked out perfectly.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate it very much. I've got other picks in my head, but we're coming here for you. We'll do another one. Because there's a lot of good stuff coming out here as well.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much, Brandon. Thank you, Austin. It's been wonderful chatting with you guys.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good day.